This September 17th is the 146th birthday of Thandai Periyar, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Shashank, for inviting to this event by Samajwadi Chhatra Sabha. A very insightful book, Why Were Women Enslaved? One of the path-breaking writings, and which revolutionized the thinking process and the political discourse and the societal reformatory discourse in the times of 1920s. So this is a series of this book, Why Are Women Enslaved, contains 10 articles, and these 10 articles are written at different times and were published in the weekly called as Kudiyarasu, written by Thandai Periyar. So this he starts with a personal experience regarding the plight of widows, and he goes on destructing the ideas and notions which hold sanctity and the purity to the notions which are upholding these kinds of values which are actual reason for the enslavement of women. So he keeps on writing that, and those articles were compiled and released as a book, Why Are Women Enslaved? So this book has this book has 10 chapters, starting with chastity, and second is Valluvar and chastity. That is nothing but when he wrote about chastity, there are lots of replies quoting, because he quoted Thiruvalluvar in the chastity. Like Thiruvalluvar is a very revered Tamil poet who lived more than 2000 years back. We also have a statue in front of Convention Center, which is not unveiled, which is yet to be unveiled till now. So he is a very famous Tamil poet, and he wrote Tirukkural, which is considered a book for all. And it is usually in Tamil Nadu political context, it is used against Sanatana Dharma, because Sanatana Dharma talks about 4 varnas and caste, but and by birth. But Tirukkural talks about Pirapukkum Ella Uyirkum, which means all lives are equal by birth. So Thiruvalluvar and Tirukkural were most revered by the Dravidian movements, and he was very much proclaimed, very much appreciated in Dravidian movement discourse. But still, when talking about chastity, Periyar takes 20 couplets of Tirukkural, which he feels are against women, and he writes about that. And based on that, the replies had come, and he gave a reply to one of the response, that is called Valluvar and chastity. That is the second. And third one, he writes about love. Then after love, if you marry, then the right to divorce. Then after divorce, the remarriage is not wrong. Then after that, he also talks about prostitution. He deals with the term prostitution, how it is dealt in the society. Then he talks about the plight of widows. Then the property rights for women. Then birth control, and masculinity must be destroyed for women's liberation. I think this is the answer for the question, why are women enslaved? And finally he comes to the point, masculinity, and it should be destroyed. So this book is compiled in this manner, but based on the chronology of the time period, let me talk with the articles based on the chronology when it was released, because these are not released in order. Actually, he had written something, and this is ordered in this manner, but based on the time chronology, I will discuss the topics. So he basically started with Sorry, I have read in Tamil, so I am just correlating with the English.
So we take your time.
We will just have it as a question answer session, the interactive session maximum. Okay, so we all know that during the times of 1920s 30s, the political scenario of India is like there is a debate and struggle going between social stream and political stream. Like this is also dealt in Ambedkar's annihilation of caste. There is a social there is a group which asks for political reform, and there is a group which asks for social reform. So Ambedkar was in abolition of caste. Baba Sahib describes about the ongoing fight and the reasons and truth behind the social platform, social reformers. So Periyar talks about that. He starts with that. He says that political reformers are waging a struggle to ensure that Indians get the power to govern themselves. Social reformers are working to eradicate the communalist and casteist differences in the Indian society. And he goes one step ahead of that. But we observe that nobody is having sufficient concern about the suppression of women. So he starts with this. This is the political scenario in 1920s. So he starts with this, and he says that sati was abolished in that times very recently, and he talks about that. After sati is abolished, what about widows? Widows are there in the home, but they are not allowed to remarry. They were made to rot in that system. Like there are different connotations in different regions. In Tamil Nadu, it is like usually like they have to wear a sari or a dress which is white or plain, very dull. They should not they should not keep the bindi. They should not use the bangles. They should not use whatever is very common for us women to use. They should not be present in any of the occasions which are considered auspicious, marriage or whatever is there. So their life is like completely secluded, and they are most brutally, very importantly, they were treated as excess, like someone who doesn't deserve to live, but they will be living there in the house. They are not allowed to choose their life, choose their partner after that. So this was the condition of widows. You might be knowing. So he is talking about the remarriage of widows, the plight of widows. So he has only one question, main question. A widow is allowed to marry in a society or not? What is your opinion? A widow is allowed to marry or not? Please tell. Widows, in before 1950s, no. But a widow is allowed to marry if the widow is a man, right? Man can marry, even if the man is 60 years, 70 years, 80 years also, he can marry. The moment the wife dies, the man can marry. He is allowed to marry the next week, next month, next year. And that too, a 60-year-old man will choose a 20-year-old girl to marry. And this was the reality of the society that time. So a man can marry, a widower, a man widow can marry. So why not a female widow? That is the primary question put forth by Periyar. And the answer given by the society is no. If a woman widow is allowed to marry, that will ruin her chastity. Right? This will become impure. So that is the point he takes and he analyzes. Okay, so he talks about his personal experience. Like he talks about why he became curious about this. He talks about his sister who died. His sister. So his sister had a brother, a son and a daughter. Her daughter name is Ammai, a 10-year-old daughter who is niece to Periyar. So the 10-year-old girl, she was married to, they arranged marriage to a 13-year-old boy, and that boy died within 2 months. So the moment the child, the Ammai, heard about the death of the her husband, 13-year-old husband, that girl came running to Periyar like, Mama, why did you do this to me? Did I ask you to marry anybody to me? And she fell on the ground and started crying. She fell on the ground with a loud thud. And seeing that scenario, the whole family and everybody was so much emotional. So Periyar described this from his own life experience, and he tells that he comes from an affluent caste in Tamil Nadu. So his father and mother are Orthodox Vaishnavites, and they practice all the formalities, everything. And he in his childhood started questioning the superstitions and other things based on the how women are being treated. So though he is coming from that family, and because of that only this marriage is also happening, that Amai's marriage is also happening. And that when that girl cried, Periyar is telling that he lifted that girl up thinking that he will do the remarriage for that girl, Amai, his niece. So when he tried to, after some time, like 1 or 2 years later, when he tried, after some time, when the girl attained puberty, when he tried to arrange for a remarriage for her, the whole family opposed it. They even made 2 grooms which Periyar arranged to run away. So he, through a lot of hardship, he arranged a remarriage with a distant relative, and that marriage has to happen without the knowledge of the family. And after all the things, marriage happened, and the boy and the girl lived happily. After some time, that husband also died, but still the girl had a son and they lived happily. This is the story told by Periyar. He has written it, and he is but he says that, like my niece, there were many children who are below 13 years, 10 years, who are suffering, and whenever I see them, I have only one question in mind. This isn't worldly nature, but this is mighty subjugation, oppression and harassing of the weak. This is the widows in the home. They are not choosing that they should live that life. They were made to live that life because of this nature. And he writes that he vehemently formed the opinion that this Hindu religion and community will be totally destroyed because of the permanency of this widowhood. If this widowhood is continuing for long, definitely the cruelty is such that the Hindu religion and community will definitely be destroyed. That was his observation. So he also writes that women are made as slaves, subservient to the men and kept as slaves, and people are even proud that they can keep women as slaves in their houses. And that's why even there were some associations, there were some movements which talk about women liberation, but they were not touching the widow remarriage. So he is telling that though they are talking about that, they are not ready to practice it when it comes to their own family members, because they feel happy and proud that they can enslave women in their household. So he says that how can women be kept as slaves? How can one half of a humanity, like 50% of human beings, can lack the freedom right from the birth, based on the birth? If the doctrine of slavery has to be abolished in human society, it is essential to destroy male arrogance and cruelty that is responsible for treating women as slaves. He observes it in his writing. So he says that the first step to abolish this women enslavement is the right to remarriage of widows. And he writes this in 1926, almost like 100 years back. Now we are in 2024, he writes in 1926. So he puts forth many points. Like Periyar's writing is very dynamic, very fluid. Like he talks about the current conditions of the society. That thing you can please give a full read. It's very interesting. He also tells that if 1 or 2 persons convert to another religion, then the Hindu Sanatanis like blab that, oh, Hindu religion is a danger, we are going to die. But if you see the count of widows, he is giving a stats. The count of widows is infant widows younger than 1 year, like the girl is just born, the girl child is born in that period, the widow marriage is like there is no upper age for marriage. Even when there were practices, the women were immediately married also. So the infant widows younger than 1 year, 597, according to the 1921 census, Hindu child widows count. He is taking from the data, and infant widows 597, 1 to 2 year child widows 494, and he gives 2 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years, and total widows under 5 years 11,892, and then 5 to 10 year old child widows 85,000 plus 10 to 15-year-old child widows 2,32,000 plus, and he gives a list. And finally the total number of Hindu widows below 30 years, it's 26,31,788, who are like whose life is gone, they can't do anything after that. So he tells that if 1 or 2% convert, you tell like, okay, our religion is in danger, we are facing threat. 26,31,788 widows are there. If you allow them to marry, and if they get child, like at least two child per, then it will be like 50 lakhs born into your own religion. So what is stopping you from allowing them to marry? So these kinds of very logical questions he put forth, and he this is very interesting read. So this is the first chapter, which talks about the plight of widows. So as he rightly observed that women are not allowed to marry, widows are not allowed to marry, telling that will ruin their chastity. So he takes about chastity, and he deals in the another chapter, chastity, and he writes this after 2 years only. So he describes about, like an analyst, he describes about the word chastity. In Tamil it is called karpu. So he describes what is the meaning of karpu, what is the etymology of the word, how it is divided, and he tells that in Tamil meaning it deals about basically like to have an agreement, like a honest agreement, like integrity, truth, and abiding by an agreement in Tamil meaning. And then comes the Sanskrit word pativrata for karpu, for chastity. Then he takes pati means a master, according to the language, master or a boss or a lord, and vrata means someone who is enslaved. And this pativrata is in Sanskritized form, it is denoting a woman. When you take chastity, it is about a truth and abiding by the agreement. That doesn't have a gender, it applies to both men and women. But when you take a Sanskrit word, it is pativrata, which is about enslavement of women. So he says men has wealth, income, and strength through the societal setup. They are allowed to acquire it, more powerful than women. And because of these things, men think that chastity is not applicable to them, and they have used the Sanskritized word and they have applied it to the women. And it is very interesting to note that karpu is a word for women chastity. I think that it should be the same for in Hindi and other languages also. There is no word for chastity for men. Is there any word? I am just asking. The word chastity is itself is denoting a woman. It is not for men. So Periyar's feminism is revolving around one pivotal point. This, whatever is there, when you talk about anything for women, talk about for men also. If it is not for men and if it is only for women, then it is a farce. That is the fundamental thing to Periyar's feminism. So he deals this also in that manner, and he talks many things like, and even in Western countries there are words which are denoting for men and women separately. And if you take in Islam, the burqa is used, and women are forced to cover the faces. So these are things he pinpoints in each and every domain, and he tells that just how so-called lower caste are made to believe that they are lower caste, and they are made to, and they subjugate themselves because of hundreds of years of tradition and oppression. People from so-called lower caste, they were made to subjugate themselves without the upper caste forcing them every time. Same way, women are also took upon the oppression, and they took upon the subjugation, and they subjugate themselves voluntarily. They became to voluntarily subjugate themselves in due course of time. So he compares how the caste oppression with the gender oppression here. So he goes one step beyond, like caste oppression also, more than caste oppression also, gender oppression lies. And whenever we are going to deal with gender oppression and oppression on women, we need to analyze in the caste angle also. Like it is difficult for a man in the patriarchal privileged society to understand the plight of a woman. But when you see yourself as someone in an oppressed caste and think that a woman is, and keep gender as an analogy to it, then there is a better way to compare and understand that. So he tells that the women is also not concerned about their own freedom because of this subjugative mind for thousands of years, for hundreds of years. So if women really want freedom, the concept of chastity that deals a different justice to each sex must be destroyed, and an equal self-governing concept of chastity for both sexes must come into place. So if you talk about chastity, if you talk about honest truth, abiding to an agreement, you keep it for both. Today's condition might be somewhat better, but we talk about hundreds of years back, the condition was like that. Women were cannot even go out of their homes, but men can have multiple partners. They can even live with many women with marriage, without marriage, and they also don't have this idea of purity or chastity. But whenever it comes with a woman, immediately the chastity comes. So in that manner, Periyar tells that chastity is a farce. The word chastity itself is a farce. If at all chastity has to be there, if at all you think that there should be some agreement between between partners, that should be equal for both sexes, both genders. So he tells that the term chastity as used in that social context is, there is no inhuman act in human society when compared to this cruelty like chastity. He ends that chapter with that. Then he then he talks about masculinity must be destroyed. This article was written in 1928, and he tells that even though there are lots and lots of organizations are there emerging day to day talking that they are going to liberate women, they are working for the women rights, he writes that in our opinion, any liberation movement created by men cannot give real liberation to women. This is like the situation. Then again he compares the same caste analogy, like where Brahmins and foreigners who consider only Brahmins to be the representatives of the country appear to work for the liberation of the Dravidian people. Like during that time, the same political platform and the social platform fight was going on. So he is telling Dravidians are SC, ST, OBC people, minorities, Bahujan people. So Bahujan people cannot be represented by the upper caste people. Similarly, women's rights, women's movements cannot be represented, created and run by the men. That is the stand. So he tells that, will rats be liberated by efforts of cats? Will goats and cocks be liberated by foxes? Will the wealth of Indians increase because of the British? Will the non-Brahmins attain equality by the efforts of the Brahmins? If one thinks over these questions, one can realize the truth. And he even goes to one extent beyond after that. Even if liberation is somehow attained in these above cases, one can firmly believe that women will never attain liberation because of men. Even if these things happen also, the thing which can never happen is that women can be liberated only by men. That can never happen. He observes that. He also tells that this is because whatever topics we are going to deal with, that we talked with this widow remarriage, we talked with chastity, and whatever topics we are going to deal with, right, like the birth control or the property rights or the right to divorce, everything, in all aspects women are kept in a disadvantageous position, and all the things whatever has taken from her has been stacked up as masculinity in the social order. That so he writes that the masculinities must be abolished. That too, the masculinity must be abolished by the women only. And he tells that the masculinity must be destroyed. How will you destroy the masculinity? Then the next question comes, and he observes that the problem of childbearing should be totally destroyed, because women are made to bear child. That is the main underlying factor which is supporting this masculinity of men. He observes. He tells that women shouldn't forget the fact that the word masculinity is itself internationally used in a manner demeaning to women. Women should remember that as long as masculinity exists in the world, femininity wouldn't be respected. As long as masculinity exists in the world, the enslavement of women will keep increasing. Unless women destroy the concept of masculinity, it is certain that they will not attain liberation. Also, the main aspect of Periyar's feminism is, when we talk about women enslavement, when we talk about patriarchal society, he rightly links it with how the caste and religion plays a pivotal role in defining that. He also tells that women should realize that they have never been given deliverance of or freedom in any aspect in Hinduism. Because in Hinduism, many of you would have known that according to Manusmriti, women are outcast. Women are outcast. Women are brahmanas, shudras, and women are outcast. So what is the meaning of shudra? The literal meaning of shudra is a prostitute son. So women are also termed as prostitutes according to Manusmriti. So he says that not only does the Hindu religion says that God created women as prostitutes by birth itself, but also that they should never be given independence consequently. And that's why the religion tells that women should be always under control. Either in their childhood they should be under the control of their father. After marriage they should be under the control of husband. They should always be under the control of a man. So there are so many, he takes references from the mythological stories and everything, validating these points. And he says that if women and men look at it from a neutral perspective, they will understand that women are made slaves because of men. All men consider masculinity and the enslavement of women to have been created by God. And enslavement of women has gained strength because even women hold this true on the basis of tradition. That means women are more voluntarily accepting that women are slave to men when they accept this tradition, when they accept this caste and religion, automatically they will get enslaved to it. So he pinpoints the root cause of that also. So he tells that he comes to the point that this can be addressed only when women take a decision that they will stop giving childbirth, that the childbearing will be totally destroyed. He even said women to remove their uterus. He told this in 1928. That became a huge controversy that day. Even today nobody can tell it. How many people can tell this? He wrote it in his weekly, and this is a controversy still till now. Like people ask, this is against nature? Then he asks, plants and animals are living in a natural way. Man has been always living against natural way. So if it is against nature, what is your problem? If women are removing uterus, that alone becomes against nature or what? Already whatever you are doing, this building is constructed, you are riding a vehicle, everything is against nature. So what is your problem in seeing this? He asks. Then the other questions come, this will stop humanity, the reproduction will stop, human species cannot sustain. And he tells that human species have been sustained for so long, like in 1950 it is 30 crore, now it is 140 crore. So he asked in that time, what is the benefit we are getting by seeing the human species to propagate? We are seeing the human species has been growing and growing. What is the benefit you got, and what is the benefit especially women got? Why should women accept this condition and tell that okay, we will not do it? What is the benefit women is going to get from it is a question put forth by him. So he tells, he also in all these articles, in all these writings, he tells that these things, anything which is going to enslave women is not only enslaving women alone, it is enslaving men also. He pinpoints it here and there, that whenever the problem of childbearing is there, it makes a woman, it affects her health, it affects her, she becomes ill, her lifespan is reduced. We don't need to see it now. Now it's like 1 or 2 children. If you consider 100 years back, it is normal thing is 10 children. And you may know people starting from their 20s, they will give birth till their 50s until menopause. So this reduces the lifespan, this affects their health, this affects their mental well-being, whatever is that. Women are just seen as an instrument of childbearing, nothing else, no other role is there. So he is in that aspect, he is telling that he is asking women, remove your uterus. So he also tells that this is a problem for men also, like how many children you will bear. Because of children you have to lose your youth, you have to lose your savings, you have to lose your energy, everything. It is a burden for men also, if you see it in a holistic manner. So he tells that if women undertake other steps for their liberation, it might present a little difficulty to men. But if women are not going to have children, men will not have any hardship or loss. Moreover, they will also prefer it. Because to a great level, a man is unable to be honest and independent only because he has children. Like a family man usually has these responsibilities, like when you call somebody in a college to protest, student will come, but if you call a family man, he will tell, I have a responsibility, I have to take care of my children, family. So these children are a liability to the man also, he claims in that manner. So moreover, his unnecessary worries and responsibilities increase because of children. So he connects it with how whatever problem is, that's what Lenin also said, like when a nation is oppressed, the chain of oppression also enslaves the oppressing nation also. So if Palestine is oppressed, Palestine is facing the difficulty, it is also ruining a harmonious life and a normal life for Israel also. That is the underlying thing. Whatever is oppressing, not only the oppressed is affected, the oppressing is also affected. Both has to get liberated from the oppression. So he points in that aspect. And when you talk about childbearing, then comes, we know that like if a woman is not giving birth, immediately that society, especially our previous society, what they did, immediately they go for second marriage to the groom. So if when you talk about this thing, you don't need to give birth, then you need to talk about birth control also, birth control measures. So that's what he is talking in the next chapter. If you see his dynamics, he says that what is the problem of allowing widows to remarriage? They can give birth to babies in the first chapter. Then now he is telling that don't bear child, remove your uterus. If you see, it might appear, without context, it might appear a contradicting terms. He self-contradicts. But with the context, in both the contexts, we are talking about the enslavement of women. What are the ways needed for the liberation of women? So, since Periyar's life is spanning for more than 70 years public life, he died in the age of 95. So whatever are his words and writings, speeches, always has to be dealt with that context. Otherwise, usually the Brahminical domain usually they will take, cut and copy some words and try to show our own leaders in a very bad light. So this is one example. In first chapter he talks about childbirth. In third chapter he is talking about stop the childbirth. So this is one example. Both are for the emancipation of women. And regarding birth control, many people talk about. He says that many people have started talking about birth control because during that time this social movements are also coming up, like Arya Samaj and whatever movements are there. So he tells that people talk about birth control because telling that concerning women's health, well-being of children, economy of the nation, and partitioning of ancestral property. Based on these things, they are telling about asking women to adopt birth control, men also. But he tells that none of these are primary factors why birth control needs to be practiced. He tells that pregnancy is an enemy to the freedom and liberation of women. Like follow-up of the previous chapter. For men also, because of children, he is unable to live with autonomy, courage and independence. For women, if not for many, there are lots of stories like women who are like who has no financial independence, who are made to live a hardship life. They tell that if not for their babies, they would have ended their life very soon. So many people started live for their children. So these are the kinds of liabilities. These are other modes of oppression on individuals. He talks about he talks about society, and also it drips to the individual level. He says that women also, if not for babies, they would have said that I would have lived a different life. I would have gone somewhere else outside of this marriage system. Many things. So children are these babies are a liability. Not the 1 or 2 babies we are talking today. Consider the 10 babies minimum. So pregnancy and delivery of children has become an obstacle to the independence of both men and women. Women lack income, wealth and profession. They were not allowed to access these things. Because of that, they need to depend on other people for raising their children. So this becomes another reason for their enslavement. So women become weak, aging lifespan, they cannot. And he also tells pregnancy is the root cause for women contracting diseases, developing signs of premature aging, having reduced lifespan and their lives cruelly cut short. Pregnancy is the obstacle that prevents women from creating female categories of brahmachari and sankarachari like categories that exist for men. He sees that this society has give lots of respect and reverence to this brahmachari, sankaracharis, etc. But those are occupied only by men. Those are not occupied by women. He also sees that he transacts many layers of this oppression and gender factors. So he says that because of pregnancy and if you are having children, because we might have seen men running away from families. It is a usual thing, but it is very uncommon to see women going away because the responsibility of the children has been 100% put on the women. So he tells that pregnancy and childbirth has to be destroyed. Because of this only, women are not becoming sannyasi and brahmacharis like men. So this is one point. But this is also like dynamic thing because he is completely against it. Brahmachari, sannyasi, Hinduism, religious things, he is completely against it. But when it comes to the emancipation of women, he touches each and every point. So that is the contextual thing he is referring to. So see, he also talks about the government is not ready to take a campaign for birth control. So he tells that therefore an institution for birth control has to be established in our country. Through that institution, not only should pamphlets, magazines and books be published, but rare books in English and other languages related to birth control should be translated into Tamil and published. He is talking to Tamil audience. Moreover, propaganda should be done through drama, cinema, etc. on the benefits and the independence for our nation and for women arising out of birth control. We request at least a few members of the public to volunteer themselves at this juncture. He is talking about birth control in 1928 and the national birth control scheme was implemented in India in 1952. So whatever he has whatever he has advocated, it was taken as a public policy, national policy, but we all know the effects of birth control now. So from birth control he goes to if birth control is there in a marriage setup, birth control is there, then there comes the societal oppression that a woman without children, she'll be the man will marry another person. So what is there for women there? Then he talks about the right to divorce for the women. It is there for men. Even if it is not there, men can practice it that time. So he talks about right to divorce, and this marriage practice, we usually glorify the marriage practice till today. Even in North India, I have seen marriages happening for 2 days, 3 days, many functions, sangeet and everything. Usually these are things not there in Tamil Nadu. Marriages end there in one session, like forenoon or afternoon session, usually. Recently I went for my friend's marriage in Madhya Pradesh, in the interior parts of Madhya Pradesh, and the marriage happened for 7 days, rituals. And she is coming from a Dalit family, but still they called this pujari, and they made a pandal in the village. It's a very interior village, and they made a pandal, and he was sitting in a height, and he is reciting Ramayana and Mahabharata, which is written in Sanskrit. Okay, nobody knows Sanskrit in that village. They are sitting there. They are hearing or not hearing. They want to sit there. They want to sit there like that for 1 week. And every day people go and wash their legs, do something, give money, and then there is evening some function, some dance drama of the children. I was devastated to see they observed this Bala Krishna marriage, something. That ritual is, my friend, she is a PhD student, she was made to sit and marriage to a Bal Krishna, child Krishna. So in a small toy Krishna toy, and they are doing marriage. I was like shocked. I couldn't imagine how the groom is allowing this, but the family is doing, the parents are doing it, and these kinds of rituals. This is happening in 2024, but this will be in. We'll think about the intense form in 1924. Like this article is written 100 years back. So these kinds of things and everything, these things. What is the effect of these things? Nothing. The women cannot come out of that. The more and more the marriage is complicated, the more and more is complicated is the divorce. So more you glorify, more money is put into it, more honor, more social values are put into it. Nothing. The woman is not allowed to come out of it. A man can easily come out of it. The burden is only on the women. So he understands that, he tells that he propagates for the right to divorce, which was not there at that time. So Periyar calls women should have the right to divorce, and the annulments, because of marriage annulment, women will be emancipated. They will acquire human nature. They will acquire human rights and self-respect. So men, it is also good for men. Men will have satisfaction. Men will actually have true love. Men will have true morality if right to divorce is there. If you can divorce and marry the person whom one love, the unnecessary subjugation and dependency will not be there. So if marriage is annulled, he also tells that if marriage annulling act is not coming, then we will have to campaign against marriage itself. Otherwise, polygamy for both men and women. He is telling it in 1928. So he tells that he calls whichever movements are working for human compassion, human happiness. If you see the art of living or the great spiritual enlightenment, they should be actually talking about this right to divorce. But the reality is they are against it. They claim that it is against their dharma to talk about the right to divorce. So throughout this book, he pinpoints the contradictions between the actual meaning to anything and how this constructed society, the false and pseudo notions on the basis of religion and caste and social values are being a part of it. So this book is a very, very interesting book. It has many things, but since time is not there, I'm just requesting to go through a full read throughout the book, which gives detailed insights, and which this is like this has many layers of understanding, this each and every chapter. So I'm sure like about like annihilation of caste, this book also needs rereading again and again to understand the nuances of words and context used, and to relate between 1920s and 2020s and how the situation has changed. So after these after these things, birth control measures were implemented, right to divorce act was enacted, and property rights for women. Then comes property rights for women. Then comes love. That is a very interesting chapter. But and self-respect marriage was enacted, made legislated in 1968 in Tamil Nadu. Still, self-respect marriage, we cannot see marriages in other places. So whenever we talk about Periyar, usually the Brahminical media tries to project him as a Brahmin basher, as or an idol breaker. But reality is he is a basher of the social hegemony, the oppression on oppressed classes, whoever it is. You would have heard one famous quote about Periyar, like, if a larger country oppresses a smaller country, I will stand with the smaller country. And he tells in that country, if a larger community oppresses other community, I will stand with the community, and if a majority oppresses a minority, I will stand with the minority. If a employer oppresses the employer, I will stand with the employer. And he talks about each and every oppression. And finally comes the last oppression he talks about is, in that oppressed community, if a man oppresses a woman, I will stand with the women. So he rightly takes many instances, and he tells that women enslavement is the basis of all the enslavement. This is the primary enslavement happened in the human society. And if human society has to become a normal society, like it is not a great society, it's just to become a normal society itself, we need to demolish this enslavement of women, who constitutes 50% of human race. So so this is the essence of why are women enslaved. Thank you for your time.